incredible history. A land which is a mix of that which is appreciably familiar to the rest of the world, but also totally exotic, with elements not seen anywhere else. The culture indigenous to this land, one of the oldest in the world, developed in not total but very heavy isolation from the rest of the human race, making it distinct from anything seen elsewhere. In the 17th century, however, a new group arrived on the scene: the Europeans. Initially, they would disregard the island, which is nearly the size of the whole continent, until one group found opportunity in it: the British. They would embark on a period of settlement and conquest, creating the modern nation-state with which we are familiar. It would not be easy, however, and a huge number of challenges, both internal and external, awaited them there, which would draw into question the country's ability to survive at all. Hello and welcome to Fire of Learning. This is the Fifth World, the Southern Land, or in Latin, Terra Australis. This is the full history of Australia. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us as we now add Australia to the list of nations and peoples whose history we have fully covered in our documentary series. There will be no part 2 to this video. We will be doing it all in one sitting. I'm proud to announce as well that this is our 10th History of Nations and Peoples nation. 10 down and a whole world to go. Before we begin, I would like to thank, and as always I'll do my best with the names, Alban Pay, or Pays, Michelin Desergev, David Alloy, Chad Prentice, LD, Sonaram, Sebastian Drouin, or Sebastian Drouin, Trevor Young, Everett Rosendahl, Odd Draken, Crabface McGrouch, William Lingenfelter, and Mark Triner for being our most recent supporters on Patreon. They join the supporters who make these videos possible. If you enjoy this video, be sure to hit the like button and consider subscribing for more videos like this in the future. Now then, let's get to it. The term Indigenous Australian refers to both Aboriginal Australians and the Torres Strait Islanders, who are separate ethnic groups. The Torres Strait Islanders have only a population of around 4,000 in the modern day and inhabit the islands of the Torres Strait in between Australia and New Guinea. Aboriginal Australians are the native inhabitants of mainland Australia and Tasmania. To understand them, we must briefly go quite far back in time. Researchers believe that the first humans made their way to Australia around 50 to 60,000 years ago, perhaps even before this. This was thousands of years before the first humans set foot in Europe, the Americas, or Northern Asia. In this time, sea levels were far lower by about 400 feet, and a land bridge existed throughout much of Southeast Asia. It did not directly connect Australia to the land, but made the distances between the islands much smaller, thus facilitating movement. These peoples, therefore, are believed to have been some of the first seafaring peoples. It is unclear if the migration occurred in only a single wave or multiple, and thus when this period of migration ended is unknown. Most Aboriginal Australians appear to have diverged from other groups, such as the people of New Guinea, around 36,000 years ago. The sea levels rose to around current levels around 6,000 years ago. It seems that within the past 6,000 years, however, there has been a degree of pre-European contact, primarily, or perhaps exclusively, in the north of Australia. Evidence suggests that there was contact and genetic influence from as recent as 3,000 to 4,000 years ago, from modern-day India. Some northern Aboriginal Australians and Indians share about 11% of their DNA. Other important clues, such as the presence of foreign animals, like the dingo, and linguistic changes, point to a recent contact with people such as the Austronesians, relatives of the original inhabitants of nearby places, like New Zealand and Hawaii. The Austronesian peoples come from an entirely separate line, originating in East and Southeast Asia. It appears as well, furthermore, that fishermen and sailors of parts of Asia might have been aware of the territory, but scarcely interacted with it. Most curiously, coins from the medieval Islamic world, specifically the Sultanate of Kilwa, have been discovered in Australia, perhaps dating to as recently as the 14th century, though no one knows how they got there. Regardless of what the extent of the contact between the first Australians and outside groups was, the Aboriginal Australian people remain, as mentioned, very distinct from any other group on the planet. The people here would develop a large variety of cultural practices, lifestyles, and hundreds of languages. Religious ideas were diverse as well, though clearly had a common origin. Many revolve around the concept of the dream time, or the dream, the stories pertaining to the spirits and forces which created the earth. They do not believe these events to be exclusively a thing of the past, and have a concept of the every win, meaning that these events pertain to the past, present, and future. I was fortunate enough to have an Australian friend who asked an Aboriginal tribal elder himself about the concept of the every win for me, and his response was that they do not have a linear view of time like Europeans do. They do not see time with beginnings and ends in the religion, but see it more as cyclical. Indeed, a cyclical perspective of time is shared by many non-Abrahamic religions. Many Aboriginal religions hold that the earth began as a flat, empty plain, and that the landscape was created by the rainbow snake, known by different names across the continent, such as Goriala, which carved out the landscape as it slithered across it, bringing the oceans and rivers into being as well by bringing water to the world. It is often viewed as the creator of the universe, but not necessarily a god in the sense with which many people from outside of Australia